So the one I want to look at now is cloud financial management. So we're in a hands-on. So we're in a hands-on. The next one that I want to look at is the storage lens, and specifically the storage lens dashboard. So if I open that, um, you can basically sort of see that storage lens delivers organization-wide visibility into storage, object storage usage, activity trends, and makes actionable recommendations to optimize costs and apply data protection best practices. So basically, you can actually look at all of your buckets in S3, um, and make sure that you basically have all of the buckets optimized for various reasons. So what I've kind of done is I put a link into um, some good YouTube videos here. So definitely have a look at those. But again, I'm not here to kind of teach you what storage lens is. What I'm here to do is make sure that, for the exam preparation, we read through this documentation and get it in line for what could come up with potential exam questions. So I'm in hands-on. I went to optimize costs, and the next thing I've kind of done is I've basically gone into my console here. So in my console home here, the first thing I want to actually do is I want to search for S3 because we know this is a service that's related to S3. And what I want to do is I want to look down through here, and I find down here storage lens. Now you can also find that as a feature if you search up here in your services part, but basically I can come down here. And what I want to kind of show you here is if I go into my dashboards here, um, come down here, you basically sort of see that I actually have a default account dashboard. Okay, so if I open that default account dashboard, what happens is it starts to open, but then basically it sort of says use an IAM user or IAM role to access Lens dashboard. You can't use your account's root credentials to view Storage Lens dashboards. To access S3 Storage Lens dashboards, you must grant permissions to new or existing IAM user. So basically what it's sort of saying is, here's the permissions required for an IAM user, but you can't do it as root. And, as we know that this role here is actually a root user. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to have to go to IAM. So I went back to my IAM here. And there's a few recommendations that's kind of come up on my IAM dashboard, but I'm going to ignore those for the moment. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a new user. Now, before I create the new user, one thing I kind of found here was, I was kind of thinking, well, okay, so I can create a user and I can assign these permissions over. That's straightforward enough, but really there must be a better way to do it. And really the better way to do it here came up in this answer here, right? So, you know, this person here has set up an IAM user with the purpose of assigning them to storage lens. However, they can't see the permissions. They can only see policies. So really what they're sort of saying here, this answer here basically says, go to your policies. So go to your actual policies itself, which is here. Rather than creating a user, a specific user, first of all, go to your policies here and create a policy and then assign that policy over to your user. That's a far better way to basically do it. So it sort of says here, um, create policy, you can click on, um, JSON tab. So if you've never done this, just take a kind of minute or two to kind of read through this, and this is JSON, and make sure that basically you kind of understand this. But again, if you're kind of studying for the exams, you should know about kind of policies and IAM users. But um, what I will do here is I will create policy, and here you basically specify the the service that you basically want. So I want the S3, and you can sort of see commonly used services. I want the S3 because it's an S3 storage lens. And here it should come up, the list of access levels that you could actually provide to this policy. Okay, so here's all of the access that you could actually provide to the policy. What I'm going to do here is I'm just basically going to find this one, and I'm going to do this manually, and there's a reason why, because I want to kind of show you if I do that, and if I do this here, so I'm going to more permissions. I don't need any more permissions. I'm going to actually, do you know what? JSON could be quicker. Yeah. So if you kind of go back here, you know, to the default, because the only one I really want to sort of see is this default account dashboard at the moment, right? So what I'm basically going to do is here, I'm actually going to bin that for a second, and I'm going to bin this one. I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to find this, and I'm just going to allow that, and I'm going to say add more permissions, and I'm going to go into S3 here, and I'm basically just going to pick the default one here. So I'm just assigning over the permissions here, read, and specifying with these specifics. No, that's okay. And then the other one, last one. So get storage lens dash configuration and get storage lens dashboard. Okay. Okay. So basically, I sort of said get storage lens configuration. Didn't specify that. Let's see S3, S3. And you sort of see the idea, right? So basically, it's asking you to assign the permissions over using the policy. So I've kind of done that. Click on next. Policy name. This is just going to be, you know, test policy. Okay. Test policy. You can sort of see the permissions defined in this policy, add tags. I just want to create the policy for now. So I've created test policy. Now go over and click on my user. Now I'm going to create a user, and I'm going to sort of say test user. Provide user access to the management console. Yes, we'll have to kind of do that. So it sort of says here, I'm going to create a new user, and I want to sign the policy over to the user that I just created. So provide the user access to the management console. Yes. If you're providing access to a person of best practice to manage their access in IAM Identity Center, we're just doing a simple kind of test, right? I mean, I want to create an IAM user. Okay, I'm just going to create a password here. Here I'm going to just sort of say something test user. So to see if I can just test dash user. I'm going to delete this, you know, straight after. I just really users must create a new password and then sign in recommended. No, we don't want to create a new password. But basically, you sort of see, I'm just creating a test user here, and basically, I want that user as an IAM user, and here I'm just creating a test password. I don't want them. This may not allow me to do this, but we'll try it. Yeah. So I'm going to say 1, 2, 3. Next. I don't want to save that. Add user to a group, cover permissions, attach policies directory. So here I'm going to sort of say my test policy was here. And I want to give them that policy. So I want to select that guy. Because that's my test policy I just kind of created. And if I click on next. So now it says say, okay, so I have a test user. I have a custom password, which is just test-user123. There's a policy that's provided, and again, you know, this policy just basically has the basic defaults that the default lens user requires. So I'm going to say create user, return to users list. So here's the console URL. So I'm going to just save that off. Just going to put this up here in a different tab for 1 second. I'm just going to go to there, and I'm just going to basically return to the users list and reload. So it says sign me out. I am user. Here I want to sort of say, well, test user, test user, 1, 2, 3. Sign in. Okay. So when I reloaded the console there and logged in as my test user, you can basically see I'm now the test user at that account. I'm not in my Cloud Solutions Architect account anymore. I am users test user. Here I can sort of say let's search for storage lens. Go back in here. Here's the storage lens dashboards. Because this user is basically just what I gave this user permission to do. That's all it's going to do. But basically, once this is done, I'm going to okay, so in the end, what I basically did was I went back. I'm just going to close all of this stuff off. I went back and I looked at the documentation of what's basically required here, and I put these notes in. But basically, um, I added all of these actions here. So for the moment, I just added these actions basically into the policy. Then I signed back in as the test user, and so you can still see I'm back in here. And if I just search for storage lens dashboards, which is a feature of S3, go into dashboards, and this default, you can sort of see here that I'm basically getting some information about this storage lens. Now, I don't have any buckets right now, so it's going to be very difficult to actually get quite a bit of kind of information. You can sort of see, no data to display, no display. Even if I kind of change it last kind of 7 days, you're not going to see much. If I change it to, looks like I can only change this last 7 days here. I can sort of say 7 days. I'm not going to have an awful lot of actual information here, but you kind of get the idea that, I could choose any of these kind of metrics here that I really wanted on my kind of buckets. I could look at like just buckets here, just literally kind of go through these here. I could look at the top 10 buckets. You have all of this kind of information that would basically come through the account here, top number of accounts, AWS regions, storage classes, buckets, prefixes, storage lens groups. There's a huge amount of information here that would basically come through if I really kind of had any data on my account. I don't have any data right now. I'm kind of following through the kind of hands-on, but all I literally had to do was go in and create a new policy, create a new user, assign that user that policy, and basically, the dashboard here. This is the default dashboard. I didn't create this, so you sort of see it's the 22nd of January here. But I basically didn't create this. You can sort of see there's one account, two buckets basically. You can kind of sort of see there's like a 30-day trend here. You could change that to week, you could change that to month. You could look at your kind of buckets and sort of see what else we can have here. Top regions, top 3 buckets, storage. Like the metric here has a huge amount of information here. Current version bytes for last day. you know, there would this. I believe this just kind of takes an awful lot of um, perseverance to make sure that your dashboards and your dashboards become um, set up correctly. But basically, that's just kind of storage lens. It's just a kind of quick overview. Because again, we're not going to be creating every single um, resource that's required, but really what we're trying to do is remind ourselves, what storage lens is. Storage lens allows you to view accounts, buckets, anything that's associated with your AWS account, um, and then have a really kind of good um, view into the data and see if you can kind of reduce your costs as well from that point of view. So, okay, that's it.